I tell myself the story of my life in stitches. Each seam I sew in lamplight after Sarah falls asleep. Each button I fasten while my daughter coughs in the next room. We manage. We always manage. That's what I tell myself when the rent comes due, and I count coins by candlelight. Sorting them into piles: food, firewood, medicine if we need it. We rarely need it. The kerosene lamp flickers. My fingers cramp around the needle. I'm altering Mrs. Henderson's dress, taking in the waist. Letting out the hem. She'll pay on time. She always does, unlike the merchant's wife, who's owed me for 3 weeks. I've learned to smile when collecting debts. Learned to make my voice soft when I need to be hard. Thomas used to say I worried too much. Now I wonder if I worry enough. Our rooms above the general store are small, but ours. One room for sleeping, one for living and working. My sewing machine sits by the window where the light is best. Sarah's school books stack on the table we use for everything: eating, homework, cutting fabric. I measure our budget the way I measure cloth precisely, wasting nothing. I pass Caldwell's pharmacy every morning on my way to collect mending from the general store. Old Mr. Caldwell with his white beard and his neat shelves and his fair prices. I've been inside twice in 3 years. I'm proud of that. Pride is cheaper than medicine. In the next room, Sarah coughs. It's been 3 days now. That cough. But children cough in Montana winters. It's normal. I tell myself it's normal. I set down the dress and check on her. 7 years old, my whole world, sleeping fitfully under 2 quilts. Her forehead is warm, but children run warm. Tomorrow I'll make honey tea. Tomorrow it will pass. I return to my sewing. The stitches are uneven. I pull them out. Start again. Each stitch worth a penny. Each penny allocated before it's earned. Rent is due in 6 days. I have it. Barely. The medicine fund, untouched for 8 months, sits in a jar behind the flour. $32. Enough for pneumonia medicine if it came to that. It won't come to that. Sarah coughs again, wet and rattling. I keep sewing. My needle moves in lamplight, like a prayer. Each stitch holds us together. Each button fastens us safe. As long as I keep sewing, we keep living. It's simple arithmetic. Thomas has been gone 5 years, but I still calculate as if I'm half of something. Half the income, half the decisions, half a person raising a whole child. Maybe I am. The lamp burns low. I should sleep. Instead, I measure out tomorrow's flour, tomorrow's coffee, tomorrow's careful survival. Sarah coughs through the wall. Just a cough. Just winter. Just the sound that keeps me awake, counting stitches in my head. I learned to stop hoping the year my husband died. Hope, I discovered, was a luxury women like me couldn't afford. The fever came on the 3rd day, and with it, the end of all my careful plans. Sarah's temperature spiked at dawn, 104 degrees. I carried her through town wrapped in blankets, and she felt too light in my arms. That was the worst part. How light she'd become. How wrong that was. The morning was cold enough to see my breath. People stared as I passed. No one offered help. I didn't want their help anyway. Caldwell's pharmacy looked different, cleaner. The shelves reorganized. A young man stood behind the counter where old Mr. Caldwell used to be. Early 30s, dark hair, wire-rimmed glasses. A diploma from Philadelphia hung on the wall. My heart sank. Young educated men charge more. care less. My daughter, I said. No other words would come. He examined Sarah with quiet efficiency. His hands were steady, gentle. I watched them instead of his face, watched him check her breathing, her pulse, her fever. He asked questions I couldn't focus on. I watched Sarah's labored breathing instead. Pneumonia, he said. The word cost money I didn't have. The medicine is $37. He continued. It will take 2 weeks to work fully, but she should start improving in 3 days. $37. I had 7 in my pocket. My entire month's earnings wouldn't cover it. I thought this is how children die in frontier towns. Not from disease, from arithmetic. I can sew, I said. My voice broke. I hated myself for it. I can mend anything you own. Work off the debt. I'm a good seamstress. Sarah whimpered in my arms. I held her tighter, which solved nothing. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he wrapped the medicine without another word about payment. Pay when you can, Mrs. Bennet, he said. Your daughter needs this now. I won't take charity. The words came out harsh, desperate. I can pay. I will pay. Just give me time. Mrs. Bennet. He stopped wrapping, met my eyes. My father taught me that human life has infinite value while money has finite worth. Your daughter needs this medicine today. The money can wait. I took the medicine because Sarah needed it. But I didn't thank him. Couldn't. Gratitude felt too much like surrender. Walking home, Sarah burning against my shoulder. I thought I owe him $37. No, I owe him Sarah's life. There's no mathematics for that. No stitches that hold that together. I knew what I looked like to him, desperate widow. Poor decision-maker. Woman who couldn't provide. I'd spent 5 years proving I wasn't that woman. 5 years erased in one fever. He looked at Sarah like she mattered. Not like she was my problem. Like her life had value independent of whether I could pay for it. I didn't know whether to trust that or fear it. Sarah recovered slowly, and with each day she grew stronger. My debt grew heavier. I sewed through the nights. My fingers bled into the fabric. I picked out the blood-stained stitches and started again. Pain is private. Debt is public. 2 weeks after Sarah's fever broke, I brought Robert Caldwell $5. He accepted it without comment. That somehow made it worse. I wanted him to acknowledge the sacrifice. Instead, he noticed my exhaustion. Are you sleeping? Mrs. Bennet, fine. I lied. He didn't press, just nodded and filed the money away. Then he said something unexpected. You have steady hands, an eye for detail. Those are rare gifts. My guard rose. I knew where this led. I need help organizing inventory. He continued. Preparing simple remedies, learning the work. The pay isn't much, but it's steady. I don't need charity disguised as employment. It's not charity. It's an exchange. Your skills for my teaching, I did the mathematics. Pharmacy work plus seamstress income meant Sarah ate better, stayed warmer. My pride argued with my practicality. Sarah coughed once from where she sat in the corner, settling the argument. 1 month trial, I said. I organize inventory, prepare remedies you specify. Nothing more. You pay me $5 weekly. After 1 month, we reassess. Agreed. I made it transactional. listed exactly what I'd do, what I expected paid. He agreed to everything without question. I realized he was letting me build walls he didn't plan to knock down. The first day, Sarah came after school. She sat in the corner with her primer while I learned the names of medicines. Robert kept peppermint sticks in a jar. He offered one to Sarah without fanfare. My daughter smiled at him. I felt fear I didn't want to name. Getting used to kindness is dangerous when kindness can leave. But I learned anyway. Feverfew, valerian, willow bark. He spoke their names like poetry. I thought I can learn poetry. I can turn debt into knowledge. That's not charity. That's exchange. 1 month became 2. I stopped counting days until the debt was paid. Started counting something else instead, how many remedies I could prepare without supervision. How many times Robert said, "Well done," without condescension. How many times Sarah laughed in this space that smelled like peppermint and purpose. I told myself it was just mathematics. Hours worked, times wage earned equals debt reduced. Simple. Except nothing about owing someone your child's life is simple. The pharmacy had its own language. And I was learning to speak it. My days split in 2 mornings, sewing in my rooms, afternoons in the pharmacy. The pharmacy had rhythms I hadn't expected. Morning rush when ranchers came to town. Quiet midday when Robert taught me to compound remedies. Evening regulars who came as much for conversation as medicine. I knew them by name now. Their ailments, their stories, their children's names. I hadn't meant to care. Did anyway. Robert taught me measurements, grains, drams, minims, precise language for precise work. I thought of sewing patterns, recipes, other languages I'd mastered. This one felt different. This one healed. Measuring powders required the same precision as setting sleeves, but the stakes were someone's breathing, someone's pain, someone's life. When I set a sleeve wrong, Mrs. Henderson's dress fit poorly. When I measured medicine wrong, someone suffered. The weight of that settled into my hands, made them steadier. Old Mrs. Chen came in one afternoon. She spoke little English. Her husband needed medicine for his heart. Robert sat with her, used gestures, explained the dosage 3 times with infinite patience. I watched and remembered people who'd gotten impatient with my grief. The landlord who shouted because I was 2 days late with rent. The neighbor who said I should remarry for Sarah's sake. The difference between Robert's kindness and that cruelty was the difference between healing and harm. I started cataloging as small kindnesses, giving credit to families who couldn't pay, letting children help label bottles, noticing when I was tired, making tea without asking. I listed these in my mind like debits and credits, except they didn't add up to anything I could repay. They just accumulated. "Try this tincture," Robert said one afternoon. "Exact temperature matters. Steep too hot and you destroy the properties. Too cool and nothing extracts." I measured the temperature precisely, timed the steeping, strained it at exactly the right moment. The liquid was clear amber. Perfect. Robert examined it. "You're a natural healer." Mrs. Bennet. My throat tightened. I'd been seamstress, widow, mother, burden, never healer. "Emma," I said. "You can call me Emma." Something shifted between us then, small but seismic. Sarah visited after school most days. She read to Robert during slow afternoon hours, her voice steady and proud. He listened like her opinions on books mattered, like she mattered. I watched them, this educated man treating my daughter like she had value beyond being a poor widow's child. I caught myself humming one afternoon while preparing remedies. Stopped mid-note. When had I started humming? When had this work become more than debt repayment? Dangerous questions. The pharmacy had its own language, and I was learning to speak it. But fluency felt like belonging, and belonging felt like risk. What happens when you belong somewhere that isn't yours? I watched Robert with Mrs. Chen and thought, kindness costs him nothing but creates everything. Time, patience, respect. He spends them like they're infinite. Maybe they are. By October, I'd paid off more than half my debt. Should have felt relieved. Instead, felt something closer to loss. When the debt's gone, will I be, do I want to be? I told him about Thomas on a Tuesday afternoon in October. With rain beating against the pharmacy windows and no customers to interrupt us. We were grinding herbs together, working in the comfortable silence we'd developed. Robert asked about Sarah's father casually. The way you ask about weather? My instinct was deflection. I'd perfected the art of not answering for 5 years. But something about the rhythm of our work together, the rain, the quiet, it loosened my tongue. Or maybe I was tired of carrying stories alone. Thomas died in a mining accident when Sarah was 2. I said. I was pregnant again. 4 months. Lost the baby from shock and grief. The grinding wheel kept turning. Robert didn't stop working, which somehow made it easier to continue. The town judged me after the widow who didn't remarry fast enough, who kept working instead of finding a new husband, who raised a child alone like I had something to prove. I paused. Because I did. I remembered specific faces. Mrs. Patterson suggesting I give Sarah to a married couple to raise properly. The banker who called me foolish for refusing suitors. The particular cruelty of helpful suggestions that I wasn't enough for my own daughter. I was angry at the judgment. I said, my voice hardened. Ashamed I let it shape me. Furious I still cared what they thought. But underneath, I stopped. Started again. Underneath, I believed maybe they were right. Maybe I wasn't enough for Sarah. Maybe Thomas's death was somehow a referendum on my worth. Robert set down his pestle. My mother died when I was young. My father raised me alone, taught me healing was a calling, not just a trade. He used to say that every person who walks through that door is someone's whole world. He looked at me directly, like Sarah is yours. You've kept your daughter alive, loved, safe, educated in a town that judged you for having the audacity to survive. Emma. That's not weakness. That's heroic. The word broke something in me. Heroic. Me. I cried for the first time since Thomas's funeral. Not pretty crying ugly. Shaking sobs. I was ashamed and couldn't stop and didn't want to. Robert handed me his handkerchief and went to make tea, giving me privacy in my vulnerability. That privacy was its own kindness. We drank tea in silence after. Then I said, I finished paying the debt last week. I'd forgotten about it entirely. Robert admitted, you've paid it forward 100 times over, Emma. Every remedy you've helped prepare, every customer you've treated with kindness, that's the real currency. He'd used my first name. I noticed, too, that I liked how it sounded in his voice. The real currency is what you do with what you've learned. He continued. You're not repaying a debt anymore. You're building something new. I understood then. I'd been seeing myself through the town's judgment. Poor widow. Struggling mother. Woman who couldn't manage. But Robert saw someone capable, worthy of teaching, worthy of partnership. I told him about Thomas on a Tuesday afternoon in October, and the world didn't end. I cried, and he didn't judge. Maybe shame was a currency I didn't have to pay anymore. Walking home in the rain, I let it soak me. Didn't hurry. Thought he said heroic, and I wanted to laugh. Wanted to cry more, wanted to believe him. The night Doc Harrison took ill, I discovered what I was truly capable of. December storm hit hard, wind howling through town like something living. Doc Harrison, our only physician, collapsed with heart trouble just after dark. Robert had to care for him through the night. I was helping close the pharmacy when the first emergency arrived ranch hand with his arm badly burned. Robert looked at me with a question he didn't ask aloud. Can you handle this? I was terrified. But I thought of 4 months of training. Nodded because he needed me to. Because the ranch hand was in pain. Because I could or I couldn't. And wouldn't know until I tried. Go, I said. I'll manage. The burn was severe. 2nd degree, covering most of his forearm. I prepared the salve I'd made dozens of times. My hands shook at first, then steadied. I talked to him the way Robert talked to patients calm, explaining what I was doing, why it would help. The man relaxed. I felt the weight of his trust. Before I'd finished bandaging, a mother arrived with a child struggling to breathe. Croup. The child's lips were turning blue. I set up a steam tent, remembered Robert's exact instructions about keeping the air moist, added the herbs that helped open airways, stayed calm so the mother stayed calm. Fear is contagious. So is confidence. I remembered Sarah's pneumonia. How Robert's calm had kept me from panic. I did the same now. The child's breathing eased. The mother cried with relief. Then a 3rd emergency pregnant woman in early labor. Complications. I sent for the midwife, but stayed with her. Prepared tinctures that might ease contractions. I was way past my training here. Working from instinct and fragments of overheard conversations. Making decisions I wasn't sure I was qualified to make. The long night stretched. I monitored all 3 patients. Moving between them, the ranch hand's pain eased. The child's breathing improved. The woman's contractions slowed. The midwife arrived, nodded approval at my preparation work. Dawn came gray and cold. Robert returned to find all 3 patients stable. Me shaking with exhaustion and leftover adrenaline. He looked at me and I saw something beyond gratitude. Respect. Equality. You're not my assistant anymore, Emma. He said, you're a healer. The words settled into me like truth I'd been avoiding. Somewhere in 4 months, I'd stopped learning a trade to earn money. I'd found my calling. Found myself again not Thomas's widow, not struggling seamstress, but Emma Bennett, healer. I'd spent 4 months thinking I was repaying a debt, learning a trade, earning money, but standing there at dawn with Robert looking at me like an equal. I understood I'd been finding myself, the woman I was before Thomas died. The woman I might have been if grief hadn't hollowed me out. The ranch hand trusted me. The mother trusted me. I trusted me. When had that happened? Walking home as town woke. People nodded respect. Word was already spreading about the night I held the pharmacy alone. I thought, I'm not invisible anymore, not barely surviving anymore. I'm someone who heals. The realization was terrifying. I wanted more of it. I stood in my rooms at midnight, Sarah asleep, and let fear tell me all the ways this would end badly. 2 weeks after the emergency night, the town called me when Robert was busy. I was becoming known. People called me the herb woman, the pharmacist's partner. New respect in their eyes when they passed me on the street. Sarah had a new dress, warmer coat. We ate meat twice weekly now, everything improving, and that terrified me. I lay awake cataloging every way this ended badly. What if Robert left, got married, and his wife didn't want me there? What if he decided I wasn't good enough? What if, what if, what if I'd built my identity on not needing anyone? Now I needed this work, this purpose, this partnership. Dependency was what destroyed me when Thomas died. Loving someone, needing someone, then having them ripped away. I swore never again. Built walls to survive. Now those walls had doors, and I didn't remember opening them. I remembered the months after Thomas died. The poverty, the hunger, the shame. How needing people meant giving them power to hurt you. How walls were safer than windows. Midnight. Sarah asleep. I wrote a resignation letter. Polite, professional. Lies about needing to focus on my seamstress business. I was good at lies that protected me, but my hand shook, writing it. I crossed out words. Started again. Couldn't make it sound true. Sarah woke, found me crying over the letter. Mama, why would you stop doing something that makes you happy? 7-year-old wisdom cut through everything. I had no answer except fear. And fear wasn't an answer a mother should give her daughter. After Sarah slept again, I lay awake arguing with myself, with Thomas's memory, with the woman I used to be. The woman so afraid of loss, she'd run before being left. I cataloged everything I was afraid of. Then everything I'd lose if I ran. The second list was longer. The choice wasn't between dependence and independence. It was between isolation and partnership. Between surviving and thriving. Between fear and faith. I thought of Sarah's question. When did the pharmacy start making me happy? When did I stop noticing fear was so convincing? Fear knew every wound, every scar. Every time I'd needed someone and they'd been ripped away. Fear said run now before it hurts worse. But Sarah asked why I'd stopped doing something that makes me happy, and I had no answer except fear. What kind of mother teaches her daughter that fear should make our choices? What kind of woman was I? Becoming if fear was my compass. The choice wasn't between dependence and independence. I'd been so afraid of needing someone I'd forgotten partnership isn't dependence. It's choosing to build something together. Robert wasn't my savior. He was my partner. And I was his. Dawn came with clarity. I burned the resignation letter, watched it curl and blacken. I was burning my exit strategy, my escape plan, my safety net. Standing there without armor felt like falling, felt like flying. I didn't know which. Decided to find out. I walked into the pharmacy that morning and told Robert the truth. I want to be your partner, not assistant, not employee, partner. The word tasted like freedom, tasted like choice. He looked up from the mortar he was grinding. surprised. Then his face shifted into something like delight. True partner. I continued, my voice steady. I'd practiced this. Equal say. Equal decisions. I want to create a line of affordable natural remedies. Use your father's recipes and my herb knowledge. Price everything so working families can afford it. Make healing accessible. I'd thought it through. Spent the night after burning the letter planning instead of panicking. We'd formalize the arrangement legally. Combine his pharmaceutical knowledge with my natural remedies expertise. Teach others what we knew. Build something that mattered. I've been waiting for you to say that, Robert said. Then why didn't you ask? Because partnership isn't something I could offer you. It's something you had to claim. He was right. If he'd offered, I'd have seen charity. By claiming it myself, I saw choice. One condition, I said. True partnership means equal voice. I won't be the helper anymore. I'll be the co-creator. Robert extended his hand across the counter. Equal partners. We shook. His hand was warm and steady. Mine was too. Sarah watched from her corner. I saw her eyes light up, not because Mama found security, but because Mama claimed power. Because Mama chose growth over fear. Because Mama showed what's possible. I thought, I'm teaching her that women can be healers, business owners, equal partners. That gratitude transforms into purpose when you help others the way you were helped. The next weeks we're planning, developing our first remedy line. I drew herb illustrations from memory for labels. Wrote descriptions in plain language anyone could understand. Robert handled regulatory requirements. We debated pricing. I pushed lower. He worried about covering costs. We compromised. Equal partnership meant equal argument. Our first customers after the partnership was official included a woman I didn't know. Desperate. Counting coins. Couldn't afford her child's medicine. I saw myself in her face 6 months ago. I provided the medicine. Told her what Robert told me. Human life has infinite value while money has finite worth. We'll figure out the payment later. She cried. I understood now. That moment when someone sees your child's life as valuable independent of your ability to pay, priceless. I was repaying the debt, not with money, but with philosophy. Passing forward what was given to me. Creating a business model built on compassion. This is what gratitude looks like when it grows up. Not a feeling in action, not a debt, a legacy. The legal partnership papers took 3 weeks. Emma Bennett, co-owner. I signed my name and thought about the woman who counted coins 6 months ago. That woman still existed, careful, precise, protective. But now she was also healer, business owner, partner. Both versions of myself could be true. I walked into the pharmacy that morning and told Robert the truth. I'd spent 6 months learning to heal others. That morning, I learned to value myself. Sarah watched me shake Robert's hand over the counter, sealing the partnership. I saw in her eyes what I was teaching her, that women can claim power instead of waiting to be given it. That gratitude isn't a debt, it's a decision to help others the way you were helped. The first widow who came to our counter after the partnership was official, I saw myself in her desperate face. I gave her medicine in the same words Robert gave me. And I understood this is how love multiplies. How one act of compassion becomes 100. Standing in the pharmacy that evening, now my pharmacy too, I watched light through windows. Partnership papers filed. First remedy line in production. Woman who couldn't afford medicine 6 months ago now owns a healing business. I chose this. Not circumstances, not Robert, me. I chose to transform gratitude into purpose. Chose partnership over isolation. Chose to believe I deserve to be whole. 3 years later, I teach my daughter to measure powders, and I think about the price of medicine. Not the $37 I couldn't pay. The real price choosing to believe human life has infinite value while money has finite worth. Sarah is 10 now. She measures feverfew with the same steady hands I once brought to sewing. The pharmacy is busy mid-afternoon. Regular customers, new faces from neighboring towns. Our affordable remedies have spread. Other merchants complained we were undercutting prices. Robert and I held firm healing isn't just business. The philosophy won. I train other women now. Widows, single mothers, women who need purpose and income. Teaching herb knowledge I learned from Robert, who learned from his father. The chain passing forward. This is how we heal communities. One woman at a time, one skill at a time. Sarah helps after school. Tells customers about medicinal properties with confidence I had to learn. I watch my daughter, who might have died from pneumonia if healing had stayed a commodity, now helping others. Heal, the circle completing itself. We have comfortable rooms now. Full pantry. Savings account. Sarah's education fund. Security I never imagined. But the real wealth isn't money. It's knowing how to help yourself and others. Having skills that create value. The purpose that fills me when desperate mothers come to my counter. A woman arrives late afternoon. Can't afford her son's medicine. I provide it. Offer the partnership plan, work with us, learn with us, pay when you can. She protests, won't take charity. I smile, say what Robert said. Human life has infinite value, while money has finite worth. Come back when you're ready. I don't add maybe you'll learn to prepare remedies too. Maybe you'll teach someone else someday. But I think the chain continuing. I remember that desperate morning, counting coins, coming up $30 short. I was measuring the wrong thing. The real cost wasn't money. It was the fear that my daughter's life could be measured in currency at all. Robert didn't just give me medicine. He gave me a different way to calculate value. Evening now. I watch sunset from the pharmacy window. Sarah reads beside me. Robert measures compounds across the room. The life we built, I built. I chose. I transformed from crisis into calling. There's a jar of coins on the counter, day's earnings, but I'm not counting them. I'm watching my daughter learn, feeling satisfaction of purpose fulfilled, living the truth that some forms of wealth can't be counted at all. I watch desperate mothers come to my counter, and I see myself. Every time, the woman I was counting coins, coming up short. Thinking in arithmetic that said my daughter's life had a price I couldn't meet. I give them medicine and philosophy both. Some need one, most need both. The lesson healed deeper than medicine. Compassion costs nothing, but creates priceless value. Gratitude isn't felt, it's lived. It's the life you build when you help others the way you were helped. Sarah asks me to check her powder measurement. I look, it's perfect. Tell her so. She beams. I'm teaching her what Robert taught me, what his father taught him. That healing is a calling. That human life has infinite value. That money has its place, but it's finite. And what we build together, that's infinite. I close the pharmacy at day's end. Lock the door. Walk home with Sarah, who chatters about herb properties she learned today. I listen, smile, think this is what gratitude looks like when it grows up. Not a debt paid, a life transformed, a philosophy passed forward, a community healed, one person at a time. The coins are counted and filed away. But the real wealth, the purpose, the teaching, the healing, the life we built that's infinite, that's what I chose. That's what I became.